Right, so hello, welcome back to the channel, and before I went away on holiday, I saw an article basically saying that Saudi league teams want to join the Champions League. That makes no sense to me. Whilst I understand that the Saudi league has pumped so much money into the league, it doesn't make any sense for them to be playing in Europe's elite competition when it's not part of Europe in the first place. But before we get into that, a massive thank you for 200 subscribers. I mean, I've only been doing this a short wee time, so to get that in such a short time, it's unbelievable. Thank you so much. And now seems as good a time as ever to ask to subscribe and share the video around. It helps the channel out a lot. Thank you so much, and let's get back into it. The source for the Saudi League joining the Champions League, or at least wanting to, comes from Corriere del Sport, which is an Italian organisation who wrote a piece on it. In said article, they basically expressed that the Saudi League teams want to be a wild card in the 24-25 Champions League season moving forward. And as we all know, from the 24-25 season, the competition is changing. So could it be possible? Maybe, but let's look into it a bit more. The current format is so good, and I don't even get why they would even try and change it. I'll get onto that in a bit, but you go through the qualifiers, then there's a playoff round. You've then got 8 groups of 4 teams who then advance to the round of 16, the quarterfinals, the semi-final, and the final. Then you have a winner. There you go. It's not complicated, it's so easy, and it's so easy to map out especially. The only thing that I've never really been a fan of what's currently going on in the Champions League is that if you finish third, you drop to the Europa League, and then that's the same for the Europa League. You go to the Conference League, and to me, it's just never made a lot of sense. How are you not good enough for one competition, and then, oh, well, you could still go in and win that? That's why Sevilla have so many Europa League trophies. It's baffling to me. Once you're out, you should be out. But strap yourself in, because I'm going to try and explain as best as I can how the 24-25 Champions League season's going to go.
Okay. Whatever you say.
So instead of all these multiple groups, you're just going to have the one group, and you're not going to have 32 teams. That's now expanded to 36 teams. Then you're going to have the elimination rounds after that. Are you with me so far? You're going to have 4 pots of 9 teams, and that's now 36 teams as opposed to the 32 teams. Then you're going to play 2 of these teams per pot, 1 home, 1 away, thus making up your 8 matches. And you're not going to play anyone from your same country unless that country or league has 4 or more teams in it. Then you might be playing them. It's all a wee bit complicated, but not too complicated so far.
I'm extremely confused.
The top 8 teams then all go through, with 25 to 36 ranked teams all going out, and 9 to 24 ranked teams all going into a playoff from there. And the playoffs are going to be determined on the standings in the league. So the higher you are in the league, 9th place, you're probably going to be playing about 24th, 23rd place. It's all seeded from there. Then whoever wins those playoff games goes through to the round of 16, and it's just business as usual from there. Those 8 teams will play the other 8 teams, and so forth, until we eventually have a Champions League winner. Now, where did the Saudi leagues come in? Well, because there's 4 extra teams in there, there's 4 different routes for other teams to get in. There's also no drop down to the Europa League and vice versa into the Europa Conference League, which I'm a massive fan of, because why should you be rewarded for going outside of Europe? But the whole point of this change is basically more games, more money, more revenue to the bigger clubs, and it's just going to create a bigger gap in wealth. But that is a whole different video by itself. So about these 4 extra teams, well, 2 of the teams go to the best 2 performing leagues in Europe. So that would be the English teams and the Italian teams if we're looking at it from the last season. So their place who basically missed out on Champions League by 1 place, aka Liverpool and Atalanta, who get moved up into the Champions League spots. One of the 4 places then goes to the 3rd best team in the 5th best performing team. So for example, last season it would have been Marseille. Instead of going through the qualifiers, they would then just be into the Champions League, and that would then mean that Stade Rennes would then go away from the Europa League and go into the Champions League qualifiers from there. However, now it's no longer Ligue 1, it's gone to the Eredivisie. Then the final place goes to the qualifying rounds for the champions of the other leagues in Europe outside of the top 10, and only one of them can get in. Makes sense? Probably not, but that's the deal. I mean, there is nothing wrong with the current format. It's just the fact that UEFA love more and more money, more TV deals, more broadcasting partners to then give them more money, and that's the only reason that this change is actually happening, because other than that, there's no actual logical reason. The Champions League works fine, everyone understands it, and now you're overcomplicating it to try and make more money. So where does the Saudi teams fall into this season? Because basically they're going to try and be a wild card in this Champions League, I imagine that the spot that would make the most sense would be the third one that I said. In fact, the third place team in the fifth performing league getting in there. I imagine if the Saudi League teams were to get in, that would be the spot that it would probably cover. It would either be that, or it would be one of the two slots for the two best performing leagues in European football the previous season. It would be one of the two. It's a toss-up really. I would guess the third place one, just because it makes a bit more sense. But let's just be serious about this. Does this happen if Ronaldo, Neymar, Benzema, if all these players didn't go to the Saudi League and there was no money involved in there whatsoever? This isn't even a discussion. It would be like some other league just trying to join. It doesn't make any sense. It's just the fact that the Champions League, out of all the competitions in world football, club world football that is, it's the most watched and it's the most profitable one. So why wouldn't they try and join? It makes no sense that the Saudi League teams are so desperate to try and join in on the UEFA Champions League. Instead, what they should be doing is going to the Asian Champions League, which is obviously where they play anyway, and basically try and figure out, how can we grow this even more? How can we get more eyes on it? Because obviously, continent-wise, it's the biggest continent by far, but it's nowhere near as watched as the UEFA Champions League. So instead of trying to do this quick route and get more eyes on the Saudi League by putting them in the UEFA Champions League, work on your own Champions League. That's it. That's all you need to do. Work on your own Champions League and see where that really gets you. Obviously, I believe that the Saudi teams are going to dominate the Asian Champions League for a fair few years now, but at the exact same time, if you or any of the other Saudi investors can invest in any of the other Asian teams and try and build up that market as well, look, now you're getting a more competitive one. Now if you get more of the top players over, it's going to get more eyes on the competition, because people are going to watch at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if they're in Europe or not. If you have the top players, people will watch. So why don't the Saudi League teams try and work on the Asian Champions League? That again makes too much sense.
It's not rocket science.
And if they do somehow get in, what is the point of the Club World Cup? The Club World Cup's supposed to be, you've got the North American champions, the South American champions, the Asian champions, the European champions, so that is the best team in the world, and that should be the most watched one. Well, FIFA do a terrible job of advertising that every single year, and there's so many poor competitions that nobody even cares about that. So no one's going to care if Al Hilal or whoever are facing Man City in the Club World Cup Championship. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So they're going to try and get in a team every year. Whoever wins that Champions League or that league, get in and try and get more exposure to the Saudi League, to try and get more players to go over because they've got more money. And it's so infuriating to watch. And the fact that UEFA are probably considering this, it just proves the organisation that they are. I mean, we've already seen it with Sepp Blatter at FIFA, Michel Platini at UEFA. That is corruption in there. And you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if it did happen. Is it a good idea to get these Saudi League teams in here? No, not at all. It's a European competition. So leave it to the European ones. It's that simple. It shouldn't even be a discussion or a debate, but here we are. So that was what I thought about the whole Saudi League joining the Champions League. What do you guys think? Do you guys actually think that it is a good idea? Please let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you, and hopefully you agree with me. please, it makes no sense otherwise. Also, if you like the video, give it a like, funnily enough. Also, share and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thank you so much again for 200 subs, and thank you so much for watching. Cheers.